Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. How are all of you? Looks like my starting video there decided to freeze, which is a new one for me, so I'll have to go figure that out and work with my technical team, which is me, to make sure that doesn't happen again. All right, got some folks in the chat. If you could give me a thumbs up or just indication you can hear me. Always paranoid that my audio will be giving me trouble. We are here to talk about, though, some practical or hands-on or everyday JQL, Jira query language. And this is the way we search through Jira. I may use also the basic search a bit to point out some cases where that can be quicker or easier to use. But the goal for today is to take everything we've been talking about for the past 2 or 3 weeks and then look into real-world use cases or things that I use on a regular basis or things that all of you use on a regular basis. I have thank you, Barb. I appreciate that. I have a couple of examples from folks in the community who were comfortable sharing what's going on. But I'm also very curious for the folks in the chat. Please use the chat to share. Hey, Dom, good to see you. Peter, welcome from Prague. Oriana, welcome. And Barb from Kissimmee. Hope it stays sunny for you. But please share your specific questions about JQL or even the ways you use it. We'll do a very quick review of JQL and its structure just so folks remember that and have that in their heads. Excuse me. And then we'll jump into these scenarios. I've got 5 or 6 lined up and a bunch more off the top of my head that we can talk through. But again, really do want to hear from all of you your use cases for JQL or JQuil, you may hear me call it, and then your questions and challenges with it so we can see if we can pull them apart in the next hour or so. For this demo, I will be using Confluence Cloud Premium. I don't have any add-ons though, so I don't have any extra functions or anything that you wouldn't have in your instance. So there shouldn't be any difference if you're on any version of Cloud. You may have more functions if you have add-ons, just as a heads up. And for data center folks, this should be very similar. I don't know specifically what the difference would be, but almost everything I do in Cloud, you should be able to do in data center for this type of searching. And especially for the concept and idea of how JQL works should be identical in both systems. So there shouldn't be any noticeable difference. But I'd love to hear folks, run into that because I haven't used data center in quite a while. All right, with that, we are going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Rob. I've been in IT my whole career, started as the help desk worker, and you've been using ticketing systems of different kinds for quite some time. Started using Jira about a decade ago. I was basically forced into it. It was the system my job happened to use. I was a customer, so I would put in tickets for our engineering team to fix something, and quickly found myself on the other side as a system administrator. Now, I found it frustrating to find things in Jira. I didn't know how to use the basic search, for example, so I couldn't find the work items I had to find. But over the past 10 years, I've kind of figured it out. I joke I beat my head into the keyboard. And that's how I learned things like JQL, Jira Query Language, and Jira. And that's why I do these online training sessions. Sorry if that was kind of loud. That's my my thermos. So I do these sessions so folks like me don't have to suffer through all of this. Also so we can share ideas, though. In my experience, I have met some really smart folks and folks who know Jira and JQL a lot better. Remy, welcome from Montreal. And it's great for me in these sessions to see the chat sharing ideas, or even in our Discord server, which we have. I'll drop a link for, regular interaction, but more importantly, people sharing what they know. Because that's how I learned Jira, JQL, Confluence, getting hands-on, but also talking to folks. And you'll hear me say JQL or Jayquill. That's jokingly how I pronounce it. Same as how someone might say SQL or SQL. Again, this one will hopefully be a little bit more interactive, so please use the chat. It's over to your right, over my left shoulder. Some of you have found it already. I will be asking some questions. I'll put them in the chat, but also say them out loud. Please use the chat to respond. I like that about YouTube. We can chat in there. I can't see you, though. Or if you can help other folks or have ideas you want to share, please drop it in the chat. It's a great way to get a little bit more out of these sessions. And I enjoy it because it helps me, learn a bit. And selfishly, I like to learn things too. So I appreciate when folks have an answer or have an idea, putting it in there so everyone can learn from it. And of course, you can share this and save it for later. This recording will be up. And then if you liked it, please hit the like button. That lets me know what is good content and helps other people find it as well. My goal with all of these is to make sure at least one person learns something, and the more people that learn from it, the more I get to meet that goal. Now, we can't cover everything about JQL, so we're going to do a very quick review on searching and finding in Jira. And that's our goal. Our goal is not to search in Jira. Our goal is to find things. And for me, those are two different ideas, right? Searching implies I might not find something. I could be searching for a long time. However, if I change my mindset to I will find this thing, that helps me approach it differently. It gives me more confidence. It makes me feel better about it. We're going to, again, quickly review filtering in Jira, and that's the term you'll see in the system for search. And then we'll talk a little bit about the JQL syntax. So how do we set up a JQL statement? And then we'll talk about functions. We covered these last week, but we'll be using a lot of functions today. They give us a lot of flexibility, and they let us do a lot of things that without the function would be hard or impossible to do. And then we'll talk about 5 or 6 scenarios that folks have shared, things that they run into where either they struggle to figure out how do they do that thing or how do they find these in Jira, or what do they want to share about these interesting ways that they use JQL. But first, that overarching question, is there any JQL you need help with? And if you do, drop it in the chat. It could be a statement that doesn't work. Maybe you've typed it in, you get an error, or it doesn't find what you want, or you can just describe what you're looking for. Erican, I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome from London. Yes, search is critical. Everyone that I know that uses Jira, whether you're a developer or a marketing expert or a project manager, will benefit from learning search. JQL itself can be intimidating because it looks more like code. And I've spoken to folks who stay away from JQL because of that. They see me writing it and they go, I can't figure that out. They could. It's, once you learn it and it doesn't take too long, you practice it, it's not too complicated, but I also understand it's not for everyone. Like the kind of things we're going to dig into, not everyone in my organization is going to care to learn or have the time to. And so that's where I'll remind us just about that basic search, and I'll show you, we'll go through some scenarios with the basic search to help out. Barb digs around across projects. That's something else that's important to remember when we think of Jira. We have multiple projects, the buckets we organize our work items into. And it's very easy for the work item to get reported in a different spot, or maybe it's in an unexpected place. A 2025 query by release date in a fixed version. Ooh, we will add that to our scenario list. If I don't bring that up, A 2025, please, drop me a little nudge in the chat. Again, at a high level, a filter is just that. We're taking the database that is Jira, just like we would a spreadsheet, and putting filters on the columns. The filters might be only show me release dates after a certain date that have a certain fixed version. Another filter might be show me a ticket in any project with a certain term or tied into something. Barb has an interesting point here. If you're in Jira Cloud Premium or Enterprise, you will have access to Atlassian Intelligence. So this is the AI tool that Atlassian has provided. And I can show this as well. But again, Free and Standard and Data Center don't have this. But that can help you write JQL. You can type in a question, and it will try to make the JQL do that for you. It can be useful, and it can help speed up folks who are unfamiliar with JQL. I'm just not in the habit of using it yet, so I tend to default just to typing in the JQL. Ooh, filtering submitted form fields. I don't know off the top of my head, Remy, and that's more of a weakness in I don't use forms all that much, but we'll see if we can set something up for you. Again, the searching in Jira, it's just like filtering a big spreadsheet. I'm reminding us about this because this helps me simplify my thinking. I can look at a big question like a query, like what A2025 has, and it can be very easy to get stuck or get overwhelmed or get confused and go, what am I doing here? And if I remember, oh wait, it's just a giant spreadsheet and all I'm doing is filtering, I can then take this question and I can look at how can I pull this apart into a JQL statement. So please just keep in the back of your mind, we're basically just filtering a giganto spreadsheet. And that same question we've had before, like what's the most frustrating part about JQL for you? And it could be any part of it. It doesn't have to be what I've already covered, or it could be something else entirely. For me, the most frustrating part was the learning curve. I had not much of a background in understanding a query language, something like SQL. Although I've since learned SQL a bit, and now I can see the similarities. So if you have other experience in other search things, that can help you out quite a bit. What was I looking for? Now, in our JQL statements, you're going to see me use these three things in every single statement. And a statement is the entire search that I type in. But we have these clauses, they're called. They're combined of a field, an operator, and a value. And so you always have to have all three. And the smallest statement is just this. It's a single set, a single clause, field, operator, value. Now, as Fernando points out, one challenge we will run into with our JQL, and I don't think I have any scenarios to walk through today, but we can invent one. There will be many times where you open up Jira and you realize there are many fields that sound the same or sometimes even have the same name. And that's where one trick I use is I will have a work item up on another monitor or on another tab so I can go look at it. I might even ask the person who's asking for help with their search, give me a ticket that meets what you're looking for, and then show me the field that I should look at. That then helps me figure out what's the correct name for that thing. Sometimes, though, the field name might be so similar, you have to use the custom field name, which can be annoying to find. I'll show us how we can find that when we get to the hands-on section. But just be aware that the field name might not be the one you're thinking of. So that's a very common frustration. So in this clause, I need the field, and then the operator is comparing them. So the field is where is the information I'm looking for, and the value is what am I looking for. So in this case, it's everywhere the project is equal to Jayquill JSM. Now, different fields will have access to different operators. You don't have to memorize this, though. Jira will autocomplete or display the appropriate operators for you. It's a good reminder of what works where. And over time, you'll just get familiar with, oh, these operators tend to work with these fields or not. The values are entirely dependent on your organization setup, though. So you probably don't have a project called JQL JSM. So this is another instance of where we just need to understand how our organization uses JQL, and we have to understand a little bit about what we can expect to find in there for the search to really work. These are all big frustrations for folks just learning. So it's very beneficial to take time to look through your Jira instance and just kind of explore what's in there if you're not already familiar with the values on tickets, those kind of things. JQuil functions, I'll kind of skip over the question just so we can get hands-on faster. Functions are going to be an important bit, especially today. These replace a value. And we spoke about these at length last week, but as a quick reminder, instead of typing in a name, I can type in a function current user, and that will change for whoever's running the query. This is a trick I use a lot, and I'll show you a way to use that with open sprints today. But functions are our friend. They let us do things we cannot do without them. For example, if I wanted to give everyone on this chat a function that shows them every ticket where they're the reporter, I would have to make 60, 70, 80 different functions and give them to each individual. Instead, I can just use this current user and give reporter equals current user to everyone. And when they run it, it pulls just their tickets. There are many functions. We don't need to memorize what they are. I'll go see if I can dig up the link during the chat or during the call. But they all speed up and make things possible we can't do manually. You'll always see them with I call this a parentheses, these curly symbols. Other folks may call them brackets. You'll hear me use parentheses to describe it. They all always end in a parenthesis, and some of them even have information you can put within the parenthesis. So we'll have a couple examples where we type information within that, but some just need the open close parenthesis and it goes. Again, they calculate something. Very commonly for me, it's a date. I use a lot of date functions to dig out tickets based on a certain timeline, or trying to find tickets based on a certain month, like when was this thing created or resolved. But they do some kind of calculation. And here is a date one. The date example came up quite a bit in terms of frustrations and how does it work. So I'll quickly go through this one. But if I use start of day, that grabs 1 second after midnight for the current day. And you'll see I put a number in there, -5. So when we use the date functions, we'll put a number in there, and that either goes forward that many days or backwards that many days. So a minus goes backwards. So if today is the 17th, and I have a -5, it's the same as typing in the 12th. Now, I could just type in, May 12th. However, tomorrow, on the 18th, it would still be the 12th if I typed it in. Using the function that, if I ran this on the 18th, I would then get the 13th. If I ran this on the 19th, it would be the 14th, etc. So this is another big advantage of functions. They're dynamic. And we also have to remember this. When we build a dashboard or a report on them, this value will update every day it's run because it's looking from the start of today, whatever today is. Oh, and there we have the last 3 things. Oops. So again, that question, morning, Justin. Morning, another Justin. Thank you for helping out our friend Remy here with the forms question. A2025, I will talk about some weaknesses of functions. Out of the box, we can't compare date values. Or at least I haven't been able to figure out a way. So in this example, I can't take the end date on a ticket and subtract the start date and use that difference to pull it up. I would have to do something like end date is less than today, like use the function. On the date functions, if you don't put a number in, yes, it would be start of today. So if I do start of today with no number in it, it assumes the date I ran I'm running the function, so right now. There is, and I'll drop this in chat, Jira's official documentation. And let me pull this up very quickly. Whoop, wrong way. There is this page. This is a very useful reference. It can be a challenge to read, so I'll just go find that start of day. On the right, it lists every function. I'm just going to scroll down to start of day, and it's alphabetical, thankfully. And this just details what the function does. So I keep this link bookmarked. Some of these I'm familiar with, but others I need to go figure out how do they work. The syntax, this bit at the start, will tell you kind of how it works. So it says, if the time unit qualifier is omitted, it defaults to the natural period. Okay? And this is what I mean by it can be kind of confusing to read or kind of annoying. Basically, it's saying if I don't have a number in there, it's the start of the day or the end of the day or the start of this year that it's looking at. Again, I use this page a lot to dig through things. This will also do things like list the operators that work for a function, the operators that don't work, and then they have examples just to give you ideas of how the function can be used. It's not saying that's the only way the function can be used. It's just giving you ideas for, hey, here's how it can work. And there are functions in here that I have never used before. Cascade option. I don't know what that does. So every time I come in here, I find something new, and then I go take a look. Voting, for example, is something my teams don't use. So it pulls back any work item I've voted on. Okay. Global ID. Let's go just check the documentation real quick. Now, this is where I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole of, pulling apart the documentation. Keep the questions coming. All right, global IDs. Now, this is a general systems. I haven't used this one. I'm going to guess what global ID refers to is the identifier for the work item. Now, in an IT system, our work items will have a value, like an issue key. I said that word. Hang on, I got to go find my little thing. If I say that I word, you'll see this pop up and that sound effect. Work items used to have a different name. It's not corrected everywhere. We can see that word right here in the middle of my screen. I'm trying to be good about saying work item. So you'll see that text pop up if I make a mistake. So we call this ticket PLAT2. That's the key. And this I can use in JQL to find this work item. Jira may have a different identifier in its database, though, and that could be what this global ID refers to. But Remy, I can dig deeper on this and do a follow-up post or a follow-up update on what that means. That said, if anyone in the chat does know what global ID refers to here, please let us know. Ooh, can we use date difference? Justin, there is a lot of confusing symbols going on in here, squiggly braces and brackets. So let's go try this JQL right here. Now, what I'm doing is learning. Sorry, that sounded very silly. I do this a lot. I have an idea about how something should work, or someone suggests something. So we're just going to put in this stuff that Justin suggested, and my Zoom broke, so let me zoom us all in some more. So Justin's asking about this. Now, Justin, it looks like you're grabbing smart values. Is that correct? You'll see the term smart value come up in relation to Jira, mostly for automations. Oop, go away. And I'm asking because of these two squiggly braces. JQL, I haven't seen use these squiggly braces, these symbols here. So when I see these, I think, oh, this might be a smart value, which as far as I know, can't be fit into JQL. But what this can do, it looks like it's comparing two different dates. So Justin's trying to help us get around that question. Can we calculate the difference between end and start date? I don't believe we can at this point. And again, because Justin, it's not going to accept this. So I'll try to put in, what would it be like, created? And I can put this in as text. And this is a great way to learn JQL. You know, go find something that you think can work, try it out, and see what the error is. And also a good reminder that it's year, month, day when we type in dates. Okay, someone asked, what can we not do with JQL? We've already spoken about the date comparisons. There are other things we can't do with JQL that we could do with different query languages. If you're familiar with SQL, for example, you might have a group by in your SQL query. Excuse me. Now, we can't group by in here. There's no ability to do that, so we can't use JQL to help us group or categorize or really change how things are displayed. Very quickly, if I go start of day, let's say, I can't ask it to group this all by project and then display the total number in here. So there are things I can do in other query languages that just simply don't work in JQL. If I need to visualize my JQL query, I have to save the filter and then make a dashboard. So if I'm looking to do analysis or make a wall board or something to share with a stakeholder, my first step is to figure out the JQL, but then I have to go make a dashboard to visualize it. So this is different than other systems we might be familiar with, where we can kind of do some basic analysis all in one spot. We have to then pull this out and put it in that dashboard or pull it out entirely into something like Excel to run the analysis. Now, that's not to say that there may be add-ons that can do this for us. This is just saying in our basic out-of-the-box Jira, we can't do that. Justin, oh, it is a smart value. Could it be used in JQL? I'm not familiar of any way with stock, I'll say generic, basic Confluence to cram smart values into the JQL for me. We can order by. Yeah, so I can sort, and you'll notice if I click the sort, it added the order by clause for me. So order by, come on, work item type. They're leaving all these things in here for me. Ascending or descending. This is different in my mind than grouping by, though. This is just going to say, you know, take all the keys and order it, you know, in sequence, for example. This isn't saying, tell me how many tickets in this query are from ETPM, are from JJ, are from this other project. I'm always going to get a discrete list of the tickets. So those are some weaknesses. It's not SQL, it is JQL. Another thing that I have not found a way to do, and I would really love to, is figure out who has made changes or who changed a value. So one common request I have is like, for this first ticket, I'm sitting in my chair, my computer broke. Who was the last person who changed the summary? Or who was the last person who assigned it? This information exists. If I open up this work item, I can come in here and open up the history, and I can see who has changed things. However, in JQL, there's no way for me to go figure that out. There's no query I can type in that says, show me every ticket where Rob changed the responder field from Rob to Andrew, or from Rob to anyone else. Chad. I'm hoping Chad put this in as a joke, but we're trying to stay within JQL, my friend. Barb, you could include the project column. You could, Barb, but then you would just end up with a row for every work item. You wouldn't end up with a single row telling you how many show up from that project. So these will be some, I can't say weaknesses, some differences with JQL where folks have expressed frustration and challenges to figure that out. Rodney just doesn't like that I call it Jayquill. He thinks it just should be JQL. I've been yelled at, though, for using the way I say it and not the acronym, so I'm trying to do both to get people used to it. All right, so those are just some examples of things we cannot do with JQL. The date comparison's a big one. You know, comparing this date field and that date field. Is the due date greater than the end date or other way around? We can't do things like group by, and we can't access as much of the ticket history as we would like. I'll come up to a scenario in a bit where there is an example of using ticket history to figure out how something has changed over time. But here's another common one, just the work items created in the current month. Now this question came from, I want to be able to do this without having to type in the dates every month. And this is where those functions are very helpful. So one way to do this is you might say created is greater than whatever the start of the month was. So everything created after the start of May, and then I'll throw in an and. Created is less than whatever the last day of the month would be. I think it's the 31st. Nope, apparently not. Uh-oh. I done really broke it. 29? Huh. Well, I love when I do things live and they just break like this. Rodney coming in. Yep, sum and other like calculations can't be done in JQL. Sum, count, etc. Well, this should be a way to find everything created in the month of May. Let me go back a month. Oh. Well, and here's another frustration. Can anyone tell me what I'm doing wrong here? Yes, Dom. It's staring me in the face. I do this quite a bit. And this is what I say when I mean I need more training. There we go. Fixed it. I was putting in 30 for the number of months. And even for myself, someone who uses this all the time, I make fat finger mistakes like that. Tina, I'm glad I'm not alone. Barb, the mistake I made was the 30. I was doing year, day, month. I really should have done 25, 30, 0, 1, or 30 here. So this would be all the work items created in the month of May. The problem is, and Rodney's beating me to it, I have to type in these dates all the time. So when I make reports, as I've kind of mentioned with the current users, I use these functions. And you can see I've selected a date, and Jira is helpfully saying, hey, look at these functions we could use. So I tend to use the same one. So instead I can just use start of month. and then created, I can say end of month. And this is logically similar. So when I say logically similar, I mean it's going to get the same end result. Now, Rodney, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are minute differences between that. For example, start of day and start and end of month might use like the server time. I forget the exact difference. So there are edge cases where a work item might show up if I use start of month and not start of day, for example. But on the whole, this will be the same as typing in those dates every month. And this right here, I can then save. And I know every month it only gives me the current month that I am in when I run it. And so that's a very quick, easy way to get my functions more use and more value, because I don't have to go then update this. And the example I kind of had at the start of this, is there a current month function? I don't believe so. So all of there's a now, which would be, I guess, not the closest. All of the date functions are end or start, and then day, month, week, year. Now I also have like the current login and last login, and these can be useful to see what has been updated. But I have to use the comparison less than or greater than. So what's been updated since the last time I logged in? This query actually can be useful. I haven't used this in the past, but it would have saved me a lot of headache. For example, I'm running a sprint and I need to see what has changed in Jira since last night when I logged out. I can run this and I can see a lot of things have updated. So the updated date is greater than my last login time. I might add another bit saying, and sprint is in open sprints. So now I'm saying for any work item that's in a sprint that has changed since I last logged in, show me that list. Now again, this won't tell me, oh, this field on that work item changed. It's just telling me something on plat 33187 was updated. But even right here, I have a query that I, as maybe a project manager, can quickly use to figure out, hey, what are the differences? Or did Mitch really go in and update that super critical ticket? And I could extend this. I mentioned super critical. Maybe I say, I just want to see, I'll use in. So here I have a fairly complex query. I have 3 clauses. And Justin, thank you for reading my mind. You'll notice I used in, and that's where I have a list of things. So I've said, I've got this priority, and I want any one of these listed priorities to show up. I can't use equals, because equal is a single comparison. And I can see here I've confused our friends in JQL. Oh, I like this question, Barb. Yes, open sprints works across projects. So what Barb is asking, I'm using open sprints in this query. This will go across every project in my organization. This might not be good. If I have a large organization with multiple projects running sprints, but I only manage 2 of them, I need to further restrict my query. I'd have to say and project equals plat, or whatever the list of my projects is, to ensure I'm only getting tickets out of that project that are open sprints. This is another very common frustration. People get too much stuff. They forget to restrict it by project, Barb, and they end up with 1,000 tickets instead of 15. Thank you, Rodney. And this is another annoyance. I have definitely pulled my hair out trying to figure out why I get different results with different queries. And this is where it's important and why I reviewed the terminology at the start. When we go look things up or when we go talk to people, if we don't know the right terms or how to describe something, we may get the wrong answer. And this is where I got very lucky in my experience. I had a Jira team in my organization. I became good friends with them because I kept breaking things, and they finally pulled me aside and said, look, we're just going to show you how this works so you stop making extra work for us. Not everyone has that, though. So that's why I'm setting up that Discord. That's why I'm doing these live sessions, to help give you all that same touch point that I had, that same luxury resource. And it sounds funny to say that, but that was insanely helpful for me. So here we have this pretty complex query. I'm going to use this to demonstrate a very common mistake that people make, and that's using the OR operator. Now, we've talked about the OR operator. I don't think I've shown people using it yet, but it is one of those things that people will trip over immediately. Barb, I'm going to use your example of open sprints. What someone might do is they might add something like this to their query. Updated greater than last login, sprint in open sprints, and priority in higher highest, or the project is plat. And in their mind, what they're typing in is, I want to see everything updated in the last login and is in an open sprint and is either in the highest high priority or in the platinum project. What this is going to do is something completely unexpected that's going to confuse the hell out of me. Rodney, my friend, I always appreciate your expertise. Rodney has a great blog called the Jira Life. Jira Life, and a podcast, I think, of the same name. Definitely worth checking him out. His expertise is incredibly deep. His technical knowledge is really appreciated. He's helped me out quite a bit. Now, when I ran this, I ended up with 33,000 work items. Sorry, my big fat head's in the way. Let me bounce over here. This is not what I wanted. And that's because this OR operator is doing its job. When we use the OR operator, it makes more things true. So and will shrink what I get. For example, if I just type in, updated equal greater than last login, if I add things to it with and the sprint also has to be open sprints, and the priority has to be this, I'm going to get less and less work items eventually until they're just the ones I want. An OR statement, however, gives me that other half of the Venn diagram, if you're familiar with those from school. It's basically saying, sure, give me this list, but then get a whole other list of just the project plat and add that together. And so that's why I'm getting 33,579 items, because I put an OR in here. And this is where the parentheses are super helpful. Thank you, Rodney. Dom, yes. So be careful with the OR operator. Now, probably what I would be looking for in here, or looking to do, is if I had parentheses around things, this will change how it operates. So this will give me a different list of work items. And here I can see I only have 26. Now what I've done, I put parentheses around the priority in high and highest, or project equals plat. And so it's first going to run what's in the parentheses. You can almost think of this like an SQL subquery, almost. So when I hit enter, Jira first went through and found the parentheses and said, okay, do what's in the parentheses. Get every ticket where the priority is high or highest, or the product is plat. And it put that list aside, and then it ran the rest of the query. Grab everything where it's updated in the last login, and the sprint is in open sprints, and is in that other list. So this is why the results shrank. It's because of those parentheses. It's saying, hey, go make this giant list of tickets, but from that list of tickets, only give me results that meet the other criteria. Yes. Tapiwa, this is where, when I use the words and or in like everyday conversation, it's kind of the opposite. When I put and in a query, it's not saying add more stuff to the query. It's saying more stuff has to be true to show me. In the same way, when I put or, it's not saying give me this one or that one. It's saying give me both, because either one can be true. I like your example of coffee or tea, though. If I said I had coffee or tea for breakfast, you wouldn't think I had 1 cup of each. You would think I'd have one or the other. And if I said I have coffee and tea, I think JQL would be like pouring it in the single cup. I'm getting off the rails here with this analogy, folks. But yes, and the OR operator, and the reason I did this is this one causes a lot of heartache. So when we build our queries, we just have to remember OR expands our results. And we can use parentheses to help force it to narrow our list down. So work items created in the current month, to back us all the way up, I would use something like this. Created is greater than start of month, and created is less than end of month. And then every month when I run this, it's always going to give me this month's work items. Now, if you're using these date functions, just be aware that you'll lose results when the next month comes or the next day comes. So right now I have 9. In the start of June, though, I would have 0 until one work item is created, then I have 1. Because it's just saying the start of the current month, the one I'm in right now. Find all the open tickets created by a specific customer group. And which one of the Justins gave us this one? Okay, let's see if I can remember this one. Creator in... Aha! There we go. Did I get it right? Yes, I got it right. Okay. So the question here is all the open tickets made by a customer group. Now, this requires additional Jira knowledge. Now, I have to know in Jira there's a thing called organizations. And organizations are a way in Jira Service Management, so just Jira Service Management, not Jira software, to group, I'll say organize, I'll use the word in its own definition, to organize customers. So in here, in this example, I have an organization called JQL Enterprises. I might have another one called Motorsports and another one called Marketing Team. I'm making up examples. So I first have to know what are the names of the organizations I have. And then my admin has to set it up so there are individuals in that organization. So this trick works as long as the organization is set up properly. But it's basically saying if the creator is in the members list of this organization, give me the tickets. And I can see here there's 98. Now, this might not be sufficient because I can see different projects are represented. And I'm just looking down the key column. The letters are the project name, VA, TME, SD, RTS. So I'd probably have to further restrict this. Rodney, you're throwing around a lot of TLAs. What's going on, my friend? Something like and project in VA, TME. And I have to use that in operator, again, because I have a list of multiple projects. But this function called organization members is a great way to pull in, any user picker field they're called, assignee, creator, updated by, those things. I can pull it in. Now, just looking at this, there's other options. I've got my members of, and I've got inactive users. So I might pop over to my handy dandy reference, which you've all bookmarked, I'm sure, and look for active, was it active users? I was just staring at it. Where'd you go? Members of, and just see what that does. So this one works by group membership. So groups exist in actually I think all Atlassian products, but certainly all flavors of Jira and in Confluence. And here's an example. There's one called Jira Administrators. But if my team has been put into a group, and there's an example right here, assignee is in members of quality assurance, then bring up those work items. So that's another way we can get these. Tina, can we name it? Yes. So let's say that this is the greatest filter ever, and I need to save it and share it. If I click Save Filter, I'll have to give it a name. That's actually the only required bit. I'll take time to name them well, because the name is usually the only thing people look at, and also add a description. Just to drive Rodney nuts, I'll add the JQL and the Jayquill. So here's my name and my description. Another massive reminder, if you don't share these, no one can see them. And in order to share them, so you'll notice I'll click My Organization, I have to click Add. If I don't click Add, it still won't be saved. This drives me nuts. So if I want to share this with administrators, and I hit Save, this isn't shared. Now it's shared, because administrators showed up. This will particularly bite you if you forget to save it. If you forget to share it when you save it, and then use this filter. Sorry, let me actually finish that. If I don't save and share this, and I use this in a dashboard, it won't work if someone tries to view it. So here I have the name right up at the top, Tina. All right, so that was our use case. As long as they're, again, for this to work, they have to be in that organization. So if you're unsure, you talk to a system admin or a project admin. The other one you can use is members or members of. But again, you have to know the name of the group that's in there, which you may not know offhand. And you'll notice these double quotes. This is saying it's a text field, so this does not have autocomplete. I'd have to actually know the name of Jira. Let's see if this is even a group. It is not. It's telling me the group doesn't exist, but I won't know that until I hit enter. Justin, that is exactly the challenge. There's two levels of security on a filter. There's the share, or there's the view, I'm sorry. Visible to, and then editable by. By default, it's private. And this drives me crazy. I'm a fan for security. However, if you don't have access to the underlying work item, it doesn't show up in the filter. So for me personally, it would be nice to make these open, at least the visible, and then folks can see them instead of having to go through and share them. Thank you, A25. Let's jump on that right now, my friend. Okay, fix version. I actually don't know. Oh, good, we have some in here. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is this live example A2025. I'm just exploring, and I do this day to day when I'm asked to find things. I'm just trying to figure out what exists in the system, and that's partially because this is a demo environment, so it may not have good examples. But if I type in fix version and an equals, I can see the possible values. So I've got alpha, beta, gamma, version 1, 2, 3, and I've got these functions. Latest release and latest unreleased. So it looks like I've got a lot of work items in unreleased, about 11,000. Okay, great. By release date. I don't know if we can. Let's go open up one of these tickets. And again, this is the same exact process I would be using for a request in my work. I'm coming in here, I'm looking for the fix version, and I'm just going to open this up to see what's on it. I'll zoom us out a little right now just so we can see this more easily. Okay, what is on this fix? No, well, one of the problems, there's no date. Okay, let's just, sure. Okay, I'll leave it as unreleased. I've got dates on it. Rodney, that sounds like a Rodney work item. Okay, so now there is dates on this A2025. Let's go back here. Oh, what is that? '26. All right, so what I just tried right there, and the start date is equal to date, which is a date field equals 2025. I don't know if I have a way of accessing start date on the release. I'll try a couple more things. So I'm just typing in to see what my autocomplete gives me. And the only field I have access to is that same start date field. So I'll back this up a little. Standard change, none of these look correct. Okay, maybe I'll try release and see what that gives me. That gives me nothing. Ooh. And fix version only gives me this. So now I'm going to scroll down fix version. What I'm looking for are the operators that I have. Anywhere I see this tilde little squiggle, that's going to be a text field or a text operator. So I know it's not going to help me here. Fix version is less than or equal to. Okay. Now this particular field has the ability to go through its history. So many fields don't. Status can, fix version can, but these don't help me because they don't give me access to the date. Oop, Melanie, did I write? Oops. That is a great question, Melanie. Thank you for calling that out. Greater than 2025 05 26. I appreciate you keeping me honest here, my friend. I know it was written correctly because I didn't get an error. So what this is telling me is I can't see any issues that meet... Sorry, hang on, I gotta do the thing. There we go. I can't see any work items that meet this criteria. If I had written this in incorrectly, like let's say I did the same thing I did last time, I will get this error. So JQL will let me know if there's a syntactical error if I type in gibberish. However, if I type something in properly and nothing shows up, nothing meets that criteria, oops. Instead, I'll get no issues found. Now, this doesn't mean they don't exist, Melanie. It just means I can't access them. So it's possible there are work items that meet this criteria that I don't have access to. And that's another major frustration. Again, if I don't have access to things, I can't search for them. So A2025, it doesn't look like with out-of-the-box JQL, I can get to this start date that exists on my fixed releases or my fixed versions. I can think of some ways around this. I'm wondering off the top of my head, what if we had an automation that updated the due date for every work item in a release with the end date of that fix version? And so then I would look for something like due date is equal to whatever the due date. I'm just going to type in something to type in something. So a specific due date that I know is on the fixed version. That could be another way. And maybe I further restricted and fixed version is equal to alpha, or the name of my fixed version. That does require that extra step of somehow getting the due date on the work items to be that. But I can't find a way right now of accessing the fixed version's due date, which this is another maybe restriction on JQL or annoyance. You will find things in system like this date right here that you may not be able to get to or access with JQL, despite knowing it's in the system somehow. I'll ask the folks in Discord, A2025, just to see if they have any ideas on how to solve for that beyond the automation trick that I just made up. But we might be kind of stuck with what we're capable of doing. All right, another couple minutes. I do a lot of work with Jira Service Management Groups, or JSM, and common requests I have relate to SLAs. Possible in data center. That's where we're going to find these minor differences, A2025, where the nice people at Atlassian have made it different. Let me try doing that real quick. Yeah, if I do fixed version in, the only operators I get, operators will always be listed at functions are listed at the top. So I get the earliest and unreleased versions and then released and unreleased. I don't have release date, unfortunately. Yeah, this is going to give me, can't find the function. Nuts. Sorry about that, my friend. Working with SLAs, and then we're at the top of the hour already. The trick to working with SLAs is you have to know the name of the SLA. I happen to know a lot of them have time. I also mentioned that custom fields can be a big pain. You'll notice that some of these items have nothing after them, and some of them have CF bracket a number. CF bracket a number is the number of this, or how Jira refers to this field on the back end. So that means if I have two SLAs with the same name, I can use the custom field to uniquely refer to a specific one. We as humans don't need to know CF 1024. But if we do know this and we type it in, it always refers to this exact field. So if you have instances where you've got multiple field names, start typing it in, and then it'll give you a list, and then grab the custom field ID, which is this value here, and use that in your query. and that'll always give you that particular field you typed in. Working with SLAs, we get a lot of different functions. So here I'm just doing time to first response is greater than, is it breached, completed, elapsed, ever, etc. So all of these are great functions to learn and use with your SLA-related queries. Very commonly, I'll use remaining. So I might say, give me every work item where the time to first response has more than an hour left, and maybe I'll flip this around. But all of these have less than 60 minutes, 60 M for minute, left on that time to first response. I use queries like this one in queues a lot. So when I'm working with my support teams, I'll set up queues that say, hey, these are your SLAs that are about to breach. Like, go work on these first. Or I'll restrict these further and maybe say, and priority is equal high, to really help them focus in on the ones that they really need to do. Or I'll even restrict this based on the reported group, that organization. I might have an organization or a user group of executives or of, higher paying customers or higher tiers, depending on how it's set up. And I want to make sure my team focuses on those before they focus on other work. And so all of these all of these great functions that relate to SLAs help me do that by isolating tickets that have a pause or running SLA clock. Wow. Okay. We're just about wrapping up, but I need your help. I'd love to know what else you want to learn about and what else you want to learn. I'm going to drop a quick survey in here. If you have just a minute, I'd really appreciate your feedback on how these JQL sessions went, but also other topics around Atlassian or Jira you want to learn. I will keep coming up with topics and ideas. I want to make sure, though, the things that I offer are useful to you and relate to what you're doing versus things that Rob just made up by himself. So please use that QR code. It'll take you to a Google form link. 4 questions. Would really appreciate you letting me know what you think. I also have an entire JQL course. It's over 2 hours just on searching and finding in Jira. This QR code goes to a coupon code to that particular course. I'll drop a link to this as well. This is another reference that I went through as much as I knew at the time about JQL and search to help folks learn how to do this better. It needs updating. You'll notice the screenshots are the old UI. So this is on my list of things to improve and make better, but this is another great resource if you're looking for something. And then next steps, please practice. We've done a couple hours together on JQL and searching, but please make time to go in and apply what you've learned. I have learned things like JQL and forgotten them because I didn't practice. And that's not a waste of time. It was just really annoying because I had to go learn the thing again. So please make time to go get hands-on in your organization's instance or somewhere else. Review this recording. This is available on YouTube along with the other ones, but also check out other people's content. There's a lot of really smart people out there, so learn from as many people as you can, and that'll give you better perspective and build your skills. And if there are people at your organization who know JQL or who are learning it, go check out with them and see what's going on. I've made some great friends that way. So please talk to people about this. It'll help you think through your challenges and uncover a lot of stuff you didn't know. Dom, you're welcome. Glad you were able to join us. I do want to thank you all for learning with me. I really appreciate you jumping in. And otherwise, be on the lookout for more coming soon. There's more great live learning. There's one coming up right after this, a study session, I believe, with Rodney and his team on cross-team releases. Awesome. So have a great Tuesday wherever you are all in the world, and hopefully my video will run properly. I'll leave the chat open for a moment or two if you have any last-minute questions. But thank you again, and I'll see you all soon. Well, I won't play that opening video again, so I'll just sit here and go through the chat for a bit. Thank you all for joining. Definitely, if you have a minute, like and subscribe, but share this with others. Again, we want to share what we know that helps us learn, but also helps out our team get used to things. A2025, best of luck, my friend. I hope you can find a solve for that. And definitely pop into Discord if you got a minute. You're welcome, Erican. I hope I'm saying that right. And let's see what I missed in the chat. Yep, start of month +1 and end of month are the same time. So again, that's some of the logics that Rodney's pointing out there. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for learning with me. I'm going to step away from the chat. Have a great day, and I'll see you all soon.